Okay, sorry that it's taken so long to actually get myself put together enough to start working on topics again. But how's it going, everybody? Today we got to talk about some stuff. I guess the first thing we got to talk about is the Pope. I wasn't aware we were talking about the Pope today, but yeah, no, we're talking about the Pope because the Pope decided he wanted to make some comments about gender-affirming care and abortion, which they're probably about the exact comments you'd expect him to make. They're probably exactly what you expect him to be making, but, you know, it's okay, guys. It's okay. I am not tall enough for this. Ah! Why? Why do I always do this to myself? Yeah, no, the Pope. The Pope. You know, for every person that freaks out about the Pope not being bigoted enough, he seems to do it just fine on his own. But first, let's get into the fan art section. So, Husk made a fan art recently, and it is adorable. It is this GIF, a looping GIF of a JRPG pixel slime Surus. Slime Girl Surus coming out and fighting an army of hammers and slimes, and I adore it because I grew up on some old school JRPGs, like the Saga series. I started on, I think my first RPG actually was, not counting Pokemon, Final Fantasy Legends Saga, and then proceeded from there to play the Final Fantasy series, the some of the things in the Tales of series, and it went on from there. But JRPGs, especially stuff like Chrono Trigger, or, you know, stuff like this that isn't very much like the Earthbound and old school Dragon Quest style of look, I adore this kind of stuff. So it looks great. Thank you very much, very much, Husk. I appreciate it. But now we have to get to the not fun stuff, which is the Pope. The Pope. And, of course, we're going to go ahead and get the 3D printing cam right here so people can still see that as it's going. But Pope Francis apparently condemns gender-affirming surgery and surrogacy, which again, you could just expect that of him. Like, it's Catholic doctrine. He's gonna do the thing. Yeah, the Pope being a popey head. The hat doesn't hide anything. So, what do we have here? There's apparently a new document from the Vatican that outlines his rejection on gender-affirming surgery, surrogacy, and abortion. The Vatican's document, which has been in the works for 5 years, also largely restates the Catholic teaching on topics including gender theory and surrogacy and abortion. Despite the Pope stating that the laws around the world criminalizing LGBTQ people are not right, in the Infinite Dignity Vatican document, he takes an anti-LGBTQ plus stand. This is why it's important to remember when people are not actually your ally, when they are just saying things. When they are just saying things that make them seem like they are your ally. That's basically what the Pope is doing here. He says things that make him seem like he's the ally of the LGBTQ plus people because that is, quite frankly, the more popular thing to do. It is the more popular person to be, and yet, by being that person, by acting like this, he's showing that he's not actually that ally. He's not actually that better person for everyone here. He is just, well, quite frankly, the same flavor of bigoted asshole everybody has seen over the past every time. Also, yes, I'm resizing my monitor live because I didn't realize how off it was. But now I know. So we are back here, and now we're here with the Vaporeons. We're supposed to be. Apparently we're not. Apparently we're not actually where we're supposed to be. I don't know how to do my own things in the background anymore. I don't. Oops. That is a me problem. Why does that say that is not a... There we go. There we are! Now we have the Vulpixes back, and a 3D printing camera that doesn't need to be there for that. The Vulpixes are back, everybody. Hip hip hooray. Hip hip hooray. Spaghettify me? Okay. Okay. Let's get back to the topic at hand, guys. Sorry. So what is the Infinite Dignity Vatican document? It was published on the 8th of April, so today, and it's a document from the Vatican, the Declaration Dignitas Infinita, because they're pretentious as shit, outlines a range of perceived threats to humanity. Women's rights are a threat to humanity? Gender-affirming surgery is a threat to humanity? I wasn't aware of all that. Weird! Weird. I wonder what this does. Hey, I can throw the topic at you like this. Huh. That's cool. Didn't realize I could do that. Sorry, you guys realize now I do all the edits live, and, sometimes some of these buttons don't work well between the Magic the Gathering channel and the regular channel stuff. They don't, but here we are. So, amongst the issues, the Vatican document outlines the most pressing topics. They are the death penalty, war, assisted dying, abortion, sexual abuse, and the abuse of women. You know, I figure if you think that sexual abuse is one of the worst things in the world, then maybe, just maybe, paying your tithes into a organization that is known to diddle children, maybe not a good idea. And I know there are people who will say, well, this happens in every field. Like, people are abusive in every field. But the Catholic Church also has a record of not only having kids get diddled, which is bad, but also sending their priests to different countries so they do not get, they do not have to face the responsibility of their actions. Like, that's a thing that is more unique to Catholicism than other styles of child rearing. So the Catholic Church is anti-sex abuse? That's news. You know, at this point, I think it's important to just not believe anything that a religious figure of authority says, basically ever. Because when you do, you stop asking yourself, hey, why are they saying this? For what purpose are they trying to communicate the words with me that they are saying? Because sometimes you'll find that the reason that a religious authority figure is saying the things they're doing is because they feel like they have to, so that the community around them will not lambaste them for their opinions. And this is why people tend to hide behind the notion of sincerely held religious belief as often as they do, despite the fact that, I'm sorry, there's no sincerely held religious belief that can or should justify being okay with the kinds of things the Catholic Church has been okay with doing in the past, like shuffling priests to Chile so that they don't have to face repercussions for their actions in the United States. Like, that's a thing that they've done historically, and while Pope Francis has been the Pope. But okay. Portland, Oregon says if they want the church to look good, maybe they should condemn the shit that makes them look bad and actually do something to root it out. And who knows? Maybe they are doing something to root it out, but I feel like at a certain point you just should recognize that you're not doing enough in general. Kermit says, do you realize how disgusted I am that essentially my entire family remains Catholics? So, look, here's the thing. I don't subscribe to the idea that all Catholics are co-abusers. I don't. I think that's a stupid generalization, and all it does is create an environment where you are forced to make enemies with people around you. There are people around you who are part of various religious organizations who might be associated with doing harm to people, who they themselves do not agree with that harm, nor do that harm, and in many cases might not even know about that harm, or simply might not believe that harm is happening. You can't blame everyone who is a Catholic on the actions that the church as a whole takes. Now, you can criticize them for tithing. I'm perfectly okay with criticizing them for tithing because tithing is a choice. Because demonstrably the money they spend via tithing goes into shuffling those priests. I'm okay with you criticizing that. But just criticizing them for being Catholic, that's a quick way to make more enemies than friends. And when you make more enemies than friends, you tend to be unable to enact any kind of political change. You tend to not be able to do anything positive anymore. Because you've found a billion ways to make enemies and a billion ways to condemn people around you. And even if every one of those condemnations is 110% deserved, condemning something does not fix it. Also, Tal140, thank you for resubscribing. So we need a building of worship Jacob. We need a building to worship Jacob? Or of worship Jacob? Because one of those sentences doesn't make any sense, Portland, Oregon. You know, don't let yourself fall so hard to the us versus them that it's impossible to build bridges with the them. Like, just like there are people who are Muslims who don't believe in all of the ways that Sharia law would cause abuses towards women and children and trans people and gay people, there are people who are Catholic who do not believe in every single facet of the Catholic religion. Or everything that its leaders say. Said infinite dignity on gender-affirming surgery is part of the document there. The latest Vatican document quotes the Pope saying that gender-affirming surgery is a form of ideological colonization. What the fuck do those words mean? He goes on to say gender theory is extremely dangerous since it cancels differences in its claims to make everyone equal. How is equality bad? How is equality bad? How is it okay for people... Anubian, what do you mean theory? Do you know gender theory is a word, right? Like that's a thing. You can Google it. What? Anyway. Another prominent aspect of gender theory is that it intends to deny the greatest possible difference that exists between living beings, sexual difference. You know what's funny? There's no part of gender theory that denies sexual differences between a sexually dimorphic species. Like, that's not a thing that it does in any way, shape, or form. Like, saying that everybody should be socially considered equal and should have equal rights is not accepting differences in people. Like, people have differences between them. Women and men have differences between them. Trans women and trans men have some differences, just like there are cis women and other cis women who have differences with themselves. Like, nothing saying that there are not differences in people. What? That ideological colonization, says the Catholic. Gender theory is a religion too. Cough, cough, cough. Jesus fucking Christ. The document outlines this sexual difference as the most beautiful and powerful of them. You know what's funny is a lot of people actually would consider those differences beautiful and powerful within gender theory too. Because it's just analyzing the ways in which we are different and the same, and the ways we should be treated. I thought they were saying gender theory is an ideology. Well, they certainly are saying that. Like, they are saying it's an ideology. Just like there are creationists that will say gender theory is a religion. Taji says, it's Taji, but glad to be here. Oh, okay, sorry that I got it wrong. Sorry. The document outlines this sexual difference as the most beautiful and powerful among them. Essentially, this is a call for any attempt to obscure the difference between men and women to be rejected. Okay. But we have to ask ourselves, which differences are they worried about removing? Because, like, I don't know, social hierarchic differences are perfectly fine with removing. Just saying. Said, what, a theory about sociology doesn't talk about biological differences? Pikachu is surprised. Yeah, it's almost as if the social construction of gender is one category, and dimorphism of species is a different category. And so there is some cross-contamination between the two of them, but one does not have to acknowledge the other all the time. Like, if a biologist is sitting there studying sexual dimorphism, and they might bring up intersex people, because they're going to fall into the category of their conversation. But they might not talk about gender as much because that's not within their field. Now, modifications on that sexual dimorphism might be a thing that they talk about a little bit when we're talking about things like hormone replacement therapy. But still, the gender conversation and the sex conversation, while they are linked, they are not the same conversation. . Why is wanting to have a kid through IVF evil or the devil or whatever? I guess we'll get to that. They said any sex change intervention as a rule risks threatening the unique dignity the person has received from the moment of conception. How? Isn't it more... Doesn't a person have more dignity if they're allowed to do with their body what they will? Isn't it considered a lack of dignity to give up that personal freedom? Weird. There is a distinction made as medical intervention for those with genital abnormalities. Oh, okay. So they're okay fucking with intersex people, but they're not okay with people transitioning, despite the fact that all the mechanics are the same between the two of them oftentimes. Despite this perspective in the newly published document, it previously seemed that the Pope had held progressive values towards LGBTQ+ people. He has stated that trans people may be baptized and act as godparents, and same-sex relationships could be blessed by the Catholic Church. He's also invited a group of trans women round to the Vatican for meatballs and tiramisu in 2023. There are plenty of examples of LGBTQ+ acceptance and inclusion in the Bible. I don't know why that's added in there. That's not necessary for the document. But... okay, so, again, this is why I said it's important to recognize when somebody in power is making concessions for public face towards minority groups versus what they're willing to endorse in their official statements. Scarlett says it's also kind of hard not to trust religious people if you're in an area where you'd be attacked for being openly gender non-conforming. Okay, but define attacked. Like, I live in one of those areas too, but there's plenty of people who are gender non-conforming here, and they tend to really only have a few choices for friendship around them, and oftentimes in red Georgia, those options are religious conservative people. What? I'm confused to the conversation that's happening with Scarlett at the moment, that's all. Kermit says they think baptism is a life-changing permanent event. Why can they force that on a baby? I don't know. Infinite dignity on surrogacy. The Vatican document also states that the Church is against surrogacy, which they state, through which the immensely worthy child becomes a mere object. How? That's like saying that with adoption, children become objects. How? How? Surrogacy is recognizing that you really want to have a child, but you have to go through different avenues to get one. That's not treating like wanting to be a parent doesn't make kids objects. What? I'm sure there are some people who do treat it that way, but that doesn't mean that the entirety of that thing is... What? I don't get that. Jesus Christ. Fresh Geo, thank you for the follow. The practice of surrogacy, according to the document, violates the dignity of the child. It doesn't violate the dignity of the child. The child wouldn't exist without the surrogacy. What? Jesus Christ. Oh. And any woman who becomes a mere means subservient to the arbitrary gain or desires of others. Yeah, you just described what it's like being at a job. Is the Catholic Church going to start condemning jobs? Because that's just what happens when you do a job. Surrogacy also violates the dignity of the woman, whether she is coerced into it or chooses to subject herself to it freely. No? Okay, so, again, you have to ask the question of how. How is the dignity being stripped away? If somebody... You know what? Let's do the thing. Let's do the thing. We will type in dignity. We'll look up just a definition real quick. The state or quality of being worthy or respected. So the woman can't be respected if she's done surrogacy. Bitch, why should she care? If it's literally... The Catholic Church will not find a way to respect you because you are doing this thing we disapprove of. Boy, howdy! Why should she give a shit? Why does the approval of the Pope matter here? Why does... It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in the slightest. Terran Ambassador says, I thought the Catholic Church was all about women being subservient. It depends on which parish you're part of. The Pope has also called for surrogacy to be banned. Of course he has. Infinite Dignity on abortion. It's not much of a surprise that Infinite Dignity states that the Catholic Church is vehemently against abortion. The Vatican document outlines that the defense of unborn life is closely linked to the defense of each and every other human right. No, it's not, though. Okay, so how is defending a person who does not exist yet? The person is a hypothetical. They're no one. They don't exist yet. They don't have a name. They are the idea of the thought of a drop of their dad's semen. That's not a person yet. That's a thought. Not to be confused with a thought. So, how is defending the rights of that, whatever the fuck that is, that hasn't been thought of at all, hasn't been conceived yet, how is defending the rights to that idea of a person the same as defending rights of people who are living and breathing right now? Because I'm not seeing a correlation there. What? This is empowerment. If the couple could force a woman into having the child, then the conservatives would be on board. Jesus Christ. The Vatican, so we've already got rid of that. Abortion, the document states, is an offense against life itself. The text placed abortion alongside the likes of murder and genocide. So the idea for someone to engage in family planning, the idea that somebody is allowed to choose whether or not they want to have a kid and when they will have a kid, that is the same as doing the Holocaust. Guys, I'm not allowed to say the word I want to call the Pope right now. But just know it's really mean. Sir, is a thought or a thought? A thought! Oh, boy. So, yeah, that's what's going on with the Vatican right now, I guess. That is, maybe just a little bit insane. Just a smidge. Just a tiny bit. Just a smidgy-widgy of, fucky-wucky. For no real good reason. Every sperm is sacred. Every sperm is good. I will. Genocide denier, homophobic, transphobic, anti-Semitic. Old Gus says, but Surus, they're the best people. If you're not alive yet, you can't sin. Oh, wait. They sinned because their parents boned. Ah, yes. You should have thought about that before you, as a sperm, crawled through dad's dick to get to your mom's ovaries. Sidebar, did you realize that you've been further inside your own mom than your dad ever will be? Instant end of video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability a Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Nixie-chan, the Oberon team, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.